The pipes snaked across my fields like veins, uninvited, gleaming with arrogance. When the town turned on their faucets and got nothing but air, they learned the hard way. I owned the water now. They never thought I'd push it this far, but that's what happens when you corner a farmer. My family's worked this land for generations, and I wasn't about to let a slick homeowners association ruin what we'd built. It started 3 years ago, out in my eastern field, checking the irrigation. Corn was knee-high, promising a solid harvest if we survived the dry spell. My boots squelched in the mud as I tweaked the valves. Then came the rumble of engines. 3 black SUVs rolled up my driveway, dust coating my crops. Men in sharp suits stepped out, looking as out of place as a cow in a boardroom. "Mr. Caldwell," one called, waving a folder. "We need to talk about a community project." I recognized him. Edward Langley, head of the Maple Ridge Homeowners Association, ex-county commissioner. Their development, 300 cookie-cutter mansions, had sprouted beyond my property 5 years back, folks wanting rural views without rural life. I wiped my hands on my jeans, wary. These types only showed up when they wanted something. Langley pitched their plan. Maple Ridge was expanding, adding 100 homes. "The town's water supply is stretched thin," he said, smiling like a used car salesman. "We need a pipeline from the mountain reservoir and the best routes through your eastern field." My answer was blunt. No, this land was my family's for 4 generations. My great-grandfather cleared it. My grandfather endured the Dust Bowl. My father built the irrigation. After taking over when Dad's arthritis worsened, I wasn't letting them carve it up. Langley's smile didn't budge. "We'll compensate you fair market value for the easement." He slid a paper across his SUV's hood. The number was a joke, not even covering 1 season's crop loss, let alone the land's long-term value. "Still no," I said, handing it back. "That's my best soil. Your digging would wreck my irrigation." I explained the watershed, how their pipeline would mess with groundwater, affecting acres beyond the route. They nodded, but their eyes said they'd already decided. Langley left me his card. "Think it over, Mr. Caldwell. Progress waits for no one." I knew this wasn't over. People like him didn't take no lightly. Weeks passed quietly tending crops, fixing gear, handling farm life's usual chaos. Then a certified letter arrived. The town council had invoked eminent domain on a strip of my land for public services, offering the same paltry sum, now with government muscle. I called my lawyer, Rachel, who knew agricultural law cold. She scowled at the letter. "They're twisting public necessity to serve a private development. We can fight, but it'll be costly and slow." We both knew Maple Ridge's developers had deep pockets and deeper county ties. We filed objections, requested hearings. Dates were set, then delayed. Paperwork vanished. Meanwhile, survey stakes popped up in my field. One morning, I caught men with clipboards on my land, flashing permits I'd never seen. "County planning approved this," one mumbled, avoiding my gaze. I yanked the stakes out. They reappeared. It was like fighting a flood with a bucket. The hearing came on a Tuesday. I wore my one good suit, saved for weddings and funerals. Town hall was packed with Maple Ridge residents, told their water pressure hinged on this pipeline. The council sat elevated, aloof. I laid out my case. This wasn't about cash, but preserving farmland. The route would disrupt drainage, degrade soil, risk groundwater if the pipe leaked. I had maps, expert reports. Then Langley took the floor with glossy slides, promising tax revenue and water security for 400 families, using an unused corner of Mr. Caldwell's vast land. Unused? Every acre had a purpose planted, rotated, or windbreak. They saw living land as empty space. The council voted 4-1 for eminent domain. Only Clara Holt, from a farming family, dissented, avoiding my eyes as I left. Construction was set for pre-harvest worst possible time. Rachel filed appeals, but bureaucracy crawled while bulldozers raced. When they arrived, I stood at my property line, shotgun resting in my arms, not aimed. Deputy Martinez, a decent guy whose cousin I'd hired last summer, looked uneasy. "Mr. Caldwell, I get it, but put that away. There's a court order. If you block them, I'll have to arrest you." I thought of Dad in the nursing home, asking about the farm. Who'd run it if I was jailed? I lowered the gun and watched them tear into my family's century-old land. The work was brutal. They gouged a 20-foot swath through my field, flattening unharvested corn. The massive pipe needed deep trenches, disrupting the water table. When they hit a spring I'd warned about, they pumped it out, flooding my crops. "We'll restore the surface," the foreman said, eyes on his clipboard. I knew better. Topsoil takes decades to form. You can't just shovel it back. Heavy equipment compacted the earth, ruining drainage. Concrete junction points would stay forever. In 2 months, the pipeline was done. They sprayed grass seed daily into my fields over the scar. Langley held a ribbon cutting at my property's edge, uninvited. I watched from my kitchen as they grinned for cameras, touting progress over red tape. That night, staring at the farm's books, reality hit. The disruption cost 30% of my harvest. Soil fixes would gut next year's profits. The county's compensation check, unopened, was a pittance. Something snapped, not rage, but clarity. The system wouldn't save me. Courts were too slow, stacked against farmers. If I wanted justice, I'd forge it myself. The plan sparked while studying an old county map. The pipeline started at the Pinecrest Reservoir, 15 miles upstream, fed by springs and a river through former national forest, sold off after budget cuts. Those parcels, bankrupted in the recession, sat in legal limbo, owned by banks and shell companies. I dug into property records. The reservoir's land was split into 27 parcels, 10 to 50 acres, deemed undevelopable due to terrain and conservation rules, worthless to developers, priceless to me. I started small, buying a 12-acre parcel at the reservoir's outflow, where the town's pipes began. The Arizona bank holding it accepted my cash offer, glad to dump a forgotten asset. The next parcel, tied up in bankruptcy, was trickier. Rachel set up an LLC to hide my name. The judge, eager to clear his docket, approved the sale. One by one, I bought the parcels, using different LLCs, paying cash, staying invisible. I drained my savings, took a second mortgage on the farm, a reckless bet, but all I had. It took a year. Meanwhile, Maple Ridge's expansion finished, new families clogging my quiet roads. Their newsletters bragged about pure mountain water. I filed each one, unnoticed, just a farmer licking his wounds. The final parcel was the priciest, holding the dam and main valves. The owner, a failed resort developer, held out for a policy shift. I offered triple market value. When the deed transferred, I owned every acre around the reservoir and its controls. The pipeline crossed my farm, but the water was mine. I waited till summer, when gardens, pools, and Maple Ridge's fountains guzzled water. I hired a contractor from 2 counties away, no local ties, for a full assessment. Valves, outflow, electronic controls. He thought I was planning ecotourism, gave me manuals and a remote system, and left. I sent certified letters to the town council, county water board, Maple Ridge HOA, and state regulators, drafted by Rachel. They declared Caldwell Holdings LLC's ownership of the Pinecrest Reservoir and terminated all prior access agreements. Continued water use was unauthorized appropriation. Citing territorial water laws, I gave 30 days notice, negotiate new terms, or the flow stops. I expected backlash. Instead, silence. They thought I was bluffing. Langley even waved as he drove by. Big mistake. At the 30-day mark, I was ready. Cameras on the reservoir, legal papers prepped, backup generator in place. At midnight, I triggered the shutdown. Valves closed over 6 hours, slowing the flow to a trickle by dawn. I didn't sleep, watching security feeds, waiting. At 6:07 a.m., my phone rang. Mayor Larson, groggy. "Caldwell, what's going on?" "Water pressures tanked." I stayed calm. I sent notices. "The reservoir's mine. I have an authorized use." "You can't cut off a whole town," he sputtered. "There are laws." "I followed them," I said. "Unlike when you ran a pipeline through my farm. I'm exercising my rights." "Want to negotiate?" "Meet me at my farm, 3 p.m. Bring decision makers." Calls poured in, commissioners, water officials, even my aunt at the EPA. Threats, pleas, same answer. Formal meeting, my terms. By noon, water was a trickle. Maple Ridge, on higher ground, had none. The hospital tapped reserves, restaurants closed, schools sent kids home. Crisis mode, as planned. At 3 o'clock, they arrived at my barny turf. Hay bales for seats, farm tools on display. Mayor Larson, 3 counselors, the water director, Langley, and 2 HOA board members showed up in fancy SUVs, faces tight with anger and fear. They weren't used to begging. I'd prepped hard, photos of my farm pre- and post-pipeline, soil samples, groundwater maps, a binder of reservoir deeds. "You've been planning this," said Nora Blake, the water director, who'd opposed the pipeline. "I had time while my crops died," I replied. "When justice fails, you find another way." Langley exploded. "This is extortion. People's lives are at stake." I let his words hang, then countered. 3 years ago, I warned you about groundwater damage. You called it progress and bulldozed my land. Actions have consequences." I slid news clippings across the table. During the drought, Maple Ridge got exemptions while my irrigation was slashed 60%. I lost half my crop. During the boil advisory, your fountains ran while we bought bottled water. You made water a private game. I'm playing by your rules except I own the source. Langley's face reddened. "Elderly need water for meds. The hospital's on reserves." Mayor Larson tried. "We get you're upset about eminent domain. We can adjust compensation." I cut him off. "This isn't about money. It's about respect for the land and those who work it." I showed photos, ruined drainage, dead crops, pipeline erosion. "2 options," I said. 1. Remove the pipeline. Restore my land properly. HOA pays all costs and 3 years lost profits. Town negotiates fair reservoir access, paying usage fees. 2. Pipeline stays. HOA pays 10 times the original easement fee yearly, funds full remediation. Town signs a water deal with premium rates for Maple Ridge. Silence. Langley sputtered. "Outrageous. We can't afford that." I shrugged. "Try the Arkansas River, 80 miles west. Good luck with permits and studies. Might take a decade." Larson pleaded. "Be reasonable, Caldwell. These terms show you what it's like when someone else holds the power," I said. "Water stays off till we agree. My well's good for months. How long do your voters have?" They whispered legal threats, state intervention. Nora approached. "What's your long-term plan?" "Reservoirs need maintenance, inspections. Access fees will fund that," I said. "I'll protect the watershed." "The state could seize it," she noted. "They'd try, but lawsuits would drag on. The town would suffer first." No politician wants that headline. Councilor Mendez, whose family ran a local feed store, spoke up. "My grandpa worked with your dad during the '79 flood, hauling sandbags. Town and country needed each other then." I nodded. "We've lost that balance. Some see land as just dirt to pave." It wasn't an apology, but it was close. By midnight, they had a counteroffer: triple the original easement fee, partial remediation, fair water access deal. I pushed back. Not enough. Maple Ridge pays a 15% water premium for their pipeline. Remediation's full, not partial. More calls, tense pizza breaks. At 1 a.m., they caved. 5 times the easement fee, full remediation by my experts, 15% Maple Ridge water surcharge, plus a new county rule mandating agricultural impact reviews for future projects. A win for all farmers. Langley, sour, agreed to a water access deal with usage reviews and a watershed study. One last demand. The HOA issues a public statement admitting the pipeline's environmental harm to my farm and apologizing. Langley balked, but Larson's glare forced a stiff nod. "Fine, but our lawyers review the wording." The deal was set. "Draw it up, signed by the council and HOA, filed with the county by noon tomorrow," I said. "I'll restore 50% water flow then, full flow when remediation payments start." They left, drained. Larson lingered. "You've made enemies, Caldwell." "I didn't start this," I replied. "But they'll think twice before treating farmland like nothing." The next day, the council signed the agreement in a packed town hall. Maple Ridge residents griped about higher rates. Langley's excuses about special infrastructure flopped. Councilor Holt spoke. "We failed 3 years ago, prioritizing development over a farmer's rights. This crisis is our fault." The vote passed, grudgingly. I drove to the reservoir, restored half flow, and watched the gauges climb, not triumphant, just satisfied. A line was drawn. By evening, water trickled back enough for basics. The hospital reopened, restaurants limped along. The town exhaled, now aware of their water's fragility. Remediation started the next week. Soil experts found pipe sealants had altered pH, cutting yields. Hydrologists mapped diverted groundwater, proposing clay barriers and drainage fixes costly, months-long work. Langley attended weekly meetings in my kitchen, out of place in his suit, wincing at bills. Once, a scientist explained microbiome restoration. "Is this necessary?" Langley asked. "Soil's not just dirt," she snapped. "It's alive." That ignorance seeing land as inert had fueled this mess. The HOA paid up, scowling. Each check admitted what they'd denied: land matters. Maple Ridge's 15% water surcharge kicked in, buried in bills, but felt. Local papers called me a schemer exploiting loopholes, glossing over the pipeline's harm. It still runs through my field, a scar and a reminder. But every drop pays me. The land's healing, slowly, under expert care. Maple Ridge folks avoid my gaze now. I still farm, like my family before me, but I also manage the reservoir, maintaining its systems and watershed. The council consults me on conservation, not by choice but necessity. Some call my move extreme. Maybe. But sometimes, you must remind folks that water, food, and land deserve respect. The pipeline showed me the system favors the rich. The reservoir showed me leverage can fix the scales. I own the water now, and in this patch of earth, that's everything.